Hello lads, ladies, gents, ladettes, whoever, whatever, welcome back to another video. Today I thought I would do something a little bit different. We are going to look at one of my #1 tips/tricks for recording with OBS. Now, recording with OBS is very straightforward, it's not particularly hard. However, you might find, hey, I've got some, game music playing or something else, and my microphone's a little quiet here, but the game's already recording because everything's kind of melded into one audio file. How can I make this not happen without having to use a second program? Now, granted, a second program, in my opinion, might be the better way to do it. But if you're lazy like me, this trick works incredibly well. So I'm going to bring OBS across onto the main screen here, and we are going to go through a lot of our settings. So I apologize for the infinite window we are about to have, always fun. But what we want to do first is go through to our settings here. Now we want to go to advanced audio properties, and you'll see here as I come across I have these things called tracks. Now tracks are our best friend. Now you can see I've got active sources only. You don't need to worry about that unless you've got some fancy shenanigans going on that you want specifically, unless you're using a soundboard and you know exactly where you're going to use a said sound and you don't want to edit it in later. By all means, however, I would recommend taking the time to edit properly. I don't do it because I'm a lazy shit, but keep that in mind. Now you'll see here I've got everything basically tracked on track 1, with the exception of my pod audio soundtrack by Twitch thing. Sorry, English hard, can't speak. It is like 6 in the morning when I decided to make this because I'm a dickhead. But you can see here everything's on track 1, and the reason why I have everything on track 1 here is just for the stream itself. Just keeps things simple. You don't necessarily need to worry about that. You can leave everything at track 1, but you'll see my first source here is only on track 2, then there's nothing else selected. Then my next source is only on track 3, nothing else is selected, and then track 4, and so on. Now the reason why I've done that for these different sources is so that way when I record, it will actually separate the audio tracks. So if the game gets too loud, or I get too quiet, or I cough and I want to mute it and I don't want to mute the game sound, this works incredibly well. Now you don't need to worry about all of this stuff. Again, there's a million ways to set up your audio. I would recommend one of a million tutorials that are on YouTube. If you would like me to make one, do let me know, but realistically, there are much better people out there when it comes to this stuff than myself. But I just figured this trick out and I find it to be great. So once we've kind of selected what we need, now you might only need 2 active sources, a microphone and your game. Now in this case, you'll see I have 3. One of these is for my guitar setup. Don't worry about that. So I've got game, well, my desktop audio is going to be my game audio on 2. Now if you use your game capture as a separate input, it may show up as another source here. So if you're using like a capture card or something like that for console, instead of doing it through window capture or anything like that, don't stress too much. I can go through all that if need be, if you're having any trouble. So for now, we're focusing track 2 and track 3 because track 3 is my main microphone. I can't speak, I'm hopeless. And then track 1 is not track 1, the audio source 1 is my desktop. Now, I'm going to go into my settings here. I'm going to go to my output settings. Now, you need to make sure you're on advanced in order for this to work, because if you are not, it will not work. Now, you'll see here for streaming, audio track is by default 1, which is why I tend to have everything on 1 by default. It makes life a lot easier. You can then separate your music with the Twitch VOD track. Very useful. I haven't played around with it a hell of a lot. Don't worry about all this. These are all different settings. We're not too worried about all that. So we're going to go over to recording. Now, when we're in recording, we have a bunch of different things going on. Now, obviously, I'm in a position right now where I am recording, so unfortunately, I cannot change these. However, you'll see here you've got your recording format. It obviously gives you a warning about recording an MP4. I personally do MP4 just because I find it easy. It works with everything that I need it to work with. So play around, find what files work, because this should work regardless in my understanding. Type, I would just leave it standard. You can generate your names if you want. Recording format, pick whatever file format you want. Remember the FLV, I think, is the file type. If your computer is prone to kind of crashing, can save the video file, so you don't necessarily have to record as much if you have to re-record. But in saying that, then you got to convert it to MP4 for most editing programs. So it's a little bit of a pain in the ass. It's like an extra step you might not necessarily need. However, if you're doing super important recording using OBS, I would probably recommend doing so, just to make sure you have it. Now you got your rescale output, all that sort of stuff, your encoder, you can pick what you want. You can do your rate control, all this stuff, we're not too worried. But we want to look here at audio track underneath the recording format. So here, you see I have track 1 deselected. Now, I can have track 1 selected if I wanted, but I don't need it in this case because of the way I set things up. But you'll see I have track 2, track 3, and track 4. And if you remember from my advanced audio properties, I had track 2 set to my desktop audio, track 3 set to my microphone audio, and track 4 set to my guitar audio, or mic 2 in this case. I should rename it for my own sanity, but I'm lazy, as we've established. Now, once we've done that, once we've recorded, we can actually go into our video editing software. In this case, I'm going to open up my Vegas Pro. Now, as I said, this should work in just about every video editing software when it decides to load, because it always takes forever. I would have been smart and preloaded this, but you know, here's what it is. Hello. Come on. You can do it. There it goes. Give it a good minute. Now, it'll seem a little strange, and it can take a little bit longer to load said videos, especially if you have long videos. Well, there's how I do my thumbnails, by the way. Oh, no, it opened up twice. Good job, buddy. That's all right. Give me the ad. Every time I tell it, don't show me this again, it shows it to me anyway. So, I'm going to open up just a random thing. Let's go the unpacking video. Now, you'll see this is the recorded file, not the actual output file. So I go to my recorded file. We're not worried about that. And you'll see here, I automatically get 3 audio tracks. Now, in this case, track 4, I don't particularly need, so I can just delete track. I only have that there just in case I need a 3rd audio source and I can reroute things and all those kind of shenanigans. Now, if I make these a little bit bigger, here's a great example right here. Now, up here, track 2 is my desktop audio. So if I mute here and play, you can hear that. Now, if I go back here, I apologize for you having to hear my voice, but I'm going to mute the desktop audio track and the mic track will now play. Will have been relatively relaxed games. We will have a fairly long... So as you can see, it separates the audio tracks. So when I play them together, long video coming up eventually. I am planning on doing a Kingdom Hearts speedrun for one of these. Speaking of which, I am in the middle of actually trying to record that, but we'll talk about that a little bit later when I actually make that video. Because it's going to be like a 3.5 hour long video. Well, probably 4 to be honest, because I haven't practiced for a bit. Now, you might go, why do I want to separate it? As I said before, I tend to end up coughing if I've talked for a long period of time, because I don't talk very often. I tend to keep to myself. Right here, you'll be like, what the hell is this audio? Like, what's going on here? This is me coughing, and this is me going, ah, like really loud for a really extended period of time, so I know where I coughed. Do you need to do this? Not necessarily. You could just do a click or something like high pitch where it'll spike the audio, but I find this just works for me. Now, that would allow me to then go into my audio editing, go bam, can select there, bam, muted, shenanigans solved. So that can really, really help with the editing process. Now, what happens if you want to play a game, you want the music to play, but you don't really want to listen to the in-game soundtrack. Say it's something you've played a lot. Take me with Diablo 3. I have beaten that game God knows how many times at this point in my life. I love it, but not a particularly hard game for me to beat. Now, a great other trick you can have is go to your sound settings down the bottom, come to here in your, and this is only if you use Windows 10. I don't know how to do this with other operating systems. Again, this is stuff I figured out for myself. Now, you might not see this setting down here, the app volume device preferences. Don't stress about that too much. Now, if I want to listen to my music while streaming, recording, and I'm worried about copyright, I can actually go to here and go, okay, let me select where I want my outputs to go. Now, in this case, I have a soundboard, like external soundboard sort of deal, which is the Mixamp Pro from my Astro A40s, just to flex on the hate. No, don't. It's just how my setup is. However, in saying that, I'm going to set this to default for now. That would then, when it's on default, it'll go to your regular desktop audio. But if I set it here to my Mixamp Pro, this will then output to a different spot. So I'm going to play a song. As you can hear, it comes through nice and loud. However, if I go to there, all of a sudden, now you can't hear it, but I can still hear the song. This is a great way for you to be able to enjoy the music you want to listen to and do other stuff. Now you might go, oh, but I don't have an external soundboard. How can I do something like that? Great question. So we can actually use a virtual soundboard like Voicemeeter. Now this is donationware. I'm just going to bring it across. So I usually have it on my other monitor. Now you'll see here I have it outputting to the Astro Mix Pro, the Mixamp. That's the word. Just English again, not easy. Ignore these settings. These should all be default by normal. So all green across the board. I've changed these just because of how I have my guitar set up and things like that. You can also use this to record, which is great. You can use it as a kind of filter on your microphone. Around here, you can bring in echo, brightness, a little bit more highs, a little bit more lows, things like that. This is great for live streaming. You can make sure it doesn't output to you as well if you want, but you could make OBS capture this as the input device while outputting your game to it, because most games these days should allow you to output to it, while using this to output to yourself. So you can change your desktop audio to be the other audio. So that might look something along the lines of going into our settings, going to our audio, and then choosing our desktop audio here to be Voicemeeter. Now, Voicemeeter sometimes shows up as two different things, so do keep that in mind. It can be a little bit tricky. Okay, so don't stress too much if it wants to be a pain in the butt. So I hope those tips helped. If you want more information on Voicemeeter and things like that, or you want to know how it works, how to use it, how to set it up, let me know. I will gladly do a tutorial on that. It's not very hard. Most of the time it's really just kind of plug and play in a sense. There is a little bit of goofing about if you need to, but do keep that in mind. So you'll see here, this is set to disabled because I don't want that on. I don't know why it keeps trying to input something there, but I don't want it. Anywho, so with that, lads, ladies, gents, laddettes, whoever, whatever, thank you so much for watching. I hope this tip helped. I know it's only a quick little video, but I find that is one of the best things you can do for your recording, especially in fixing audio issues. So thank you very much, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.